So now what I'm going to speak about is a topic that I still haven't discovered the answer to, but I'm going to attempt to answer it nonetheless. And the topic is, what makes Bharat unique? Frankly, there is no single answer for this question. But while I was on my way coming to the Festival of Bharat, I asked myself, what is the one thing that distinguishes India or Bharat from every other country in the world? Every other country, including Asian countries, African countries, countries that are developing economies like ours, America, Europe, what differentiates us from them? And not in a negative sort of connotation, in a positive sort of connotation. And I asked myself, and I came to a conclusion that the one single factor that distinguishes us from any other country in the world is the fact that we as a country, we as a people, are not fundamentalists about anything. There's no one set of ideology, one set of rules, one set of political thought, one set of religious thought that governs us or defines us. In America, there was this entire thing between capitalism and communism. In every country of the world, there has always been some overwhelming, overarching ideology, some kind of philosophy that governs that country. India, or Bharat, is the only place where everybody has been welcome. In fact, I am addressing you in a language that is actually not our language at all. It's the language of our oppressors, the English, for 200 years. And yet, here we are, very comfortable as Indians, speaking to each other in the language that invaders gave us or imposed upon us for their convenience. Now that's India, that's Bharat. India is 122 languages as per the census. These are the languages spoken by at least 10,000 people. At least 30 languages are spoken by more than 1 million people. If you actually see the number, it goes up to 1,600 languages. Every 15 kilometers, I'm told the dialect changes. And you can experience it yourself. We are here in Delhi. You go just a little bit away, maybe to Noida, that's completely different. Then you go a little further away, and that's different. Ghaziabad is different. Gurugram is different. So that kind of diversity, almost 130 crore people, different faiths, Hindus, Christians, Muslims, perhaps the second largest community or third largest in the world, in fact, now I think after Pakistan and Indonesia, reside here. And we all coexist. We just don't coexist. We actually live in peace and harmony. And what makes us different is this level, this tolerance. And I don't think that this tolerance is going away anytime soon, no matter what you hear on the television sets, no matter what you hear on the political narrative. I think this is something that has bound us together for over 5,000 years. And it made us great back then and will make us great in the future as well. Think about it. What kind of a country are we? We're the kind of country that if I pull out this note that I have in my pocket, and there are 15 languages on the currency note, 15. I don't see the United States currency having that kind of diversity on their notes. I don't see the European Union's euro having that kind of, I think they have a couple of Latin and Greek or something of that sort, but I don't think that is the kind of diversity on their currency notes. I don't think any other country in the world puts 15 languages on their currency note because they don't want to exclude anybody. That's the thought that's prevalent in Bharat. Bharat has always been about including everybody, including our invaders, including people who came here to colonize us. That's Bharat. Let me give you another example. A lot of people from the West particularly look at India and they see, look, this country is so chaotic. In fact, the Britishers didn't give us a chance. They thought our democracy would collapse. There would probably be authoritarian rule. They thought that we'd break up into multiple pieces. They thought there might be military rule like there was in Pakistan for a lot of time. I guess 48 years in Pakistan out of 71 years, they've been under military rule. But that's not happened in India. And why did it not happen in India? In India, you and I get very frustrated when we're driving on the road and we see maybe a bullock cart on the road, right? Or we see a cow on the road, or we see an animal on the road. And we're like, this doesn't happen in Singapore. This doesn't happen in the United States. Why should there be a bullock cart on the road? It's moving so slowly. But think about it. What is India? India says that the guy with the bullock cart, the guy who's the most disempowered person, who's actually not financially empowered, not socially empowered, he too has a space on our roads. It's not like the United States, where a bullock cart isn't allowed. I'm not making a virtue out of the fact that people don't follow the law, but I am saying that India gives space to people. It's actually a good thing not to see the bullock cart on the road, but to actually feel the experience, the power that even the most socially and economically disempowered person has to ride on those roads. Because those roads are not meant just for the rich and elite. Those roads aren't meant just for my Mercedes or your Audi or your Maruti. That's not what it's meant for. It's also meant for that poorest guy to go and earn his bread. And he gets that space in India. I think that's unique. India allows that. Yes, we have our laws, but still India allows that. It's a mindset where we make our peace. We learn how to coexist. Okay, so if there's a cow on the road, we take a little bit of a diversion and we make it to our destination. That's India. India thinks about accommodating, and this is not something that the West has given us. Let's not kid ourselves. Democracy is not a British invention into India. It's not a British thing, nor is secularism, nor are all these great virtues. These were already ours. They were always there. In fact, because they were there, we controlled 33% of the world economy. We were the superpower that everyone wanted to come here and conquer, everyone wanted a part of, everyone wanted to trade with. That's why people they didn't go actually looking for America. I think somebody went looking for India and landed up in America. So America was a mistake. India was the right destination. And I think that's the beauty of India. Everybody gets space. So think about it. The Britishers or everybody else, the Greeks think that they gave us democracy. No, it's actually there in our Rigveds and in our Atharvaveda. In fact, the word republic has been used about 9 times in Rigveda. It's been used 40 times in Atharvaveda. Do you know sabhas and samitis? What is that? Samgyan. Samgyan means collective consciousness. That means collective of people, their consciousness. These are the terminologies that actually reflect the deep-seated, deep-rooted belief that our Indian scriptures always had in the spirit of democracy, in the spirit of pluralism, in the spirit of dialogue. And while there were the Vedas, which were considered the authority, there was also the Charvak, which was considered an antithesis to the Vedas, which was considered as a challenging authority to the Vedas. And that too existed, that too coexisted. So India knows how to coexist. It's part of our DNA, it's part of our genes. Therefore, we have a situation where in this country, we all celebrate so many festivals. We don't need to be told that because we are a secular country, we need to indulge our neighbors who may belong to another faith. We do it because we love to do it. Look at our cuisines, look at our language. Hindi is completely influenced by Urdu. A lot of the Hindi movies, in fact, I mean, if they didn't have the Urdu words, they would sound ridiculous. Hum dil le chuke sanam. I think dil is an Urdu word. If it wasn't that, it would be hum hriday de chuke. I don't know what's the Hindi word for sanam in Hindi, but it would not sound the same. So Hindi opens up its arms, embraces Urdu, embraces English, embraces a lot of languages, and becomes Hindustani. And Sanskrit is actually the mother of a lot of languages, including the West. That's the greatness of our culture, that's the greatness of our language, that's the greatness of our civilization, which is a very old civilization, in fact, the oldest civilization in the world. And therefore, people wanted to come here. Now, the question is that how do we continue to build on this narrative? How do we ensure that what makes us unique continues to be our driving force going forward? What we need to do is to ensure that the spirit of pluralism is always there in our minds. And what we need to do is, therefore, to allow dialogue. And that's why I love something like a Festival of Bharat. Thank God they called it a Festival of Bharat and they didn't call it a Conclave of Bharat. Thank God they didn't call it a Conference on Bharat. Thank God they didn't call it anything else of Bharat and they called it a Festival of Bharat, because we must celebrate our Bharatiyata, because celebrating Bharat and Bharatiyata means celebrating the other person's views even if they are against you. In fact, it's not Voltaire who said that, even if I disagree with you, I will fight for your right to say it. It's actually Indian to do that. Indians love defending the right of another, even if that offends them. We actually use non-violence against British to actually request them to leave our country. We didn't tell them, get out or we'll kill you all. We said, please leave because we want to govern ourselves. And therefore, we arrived at an agreement. And that's what the philosophy of Mahatma was. And that's why he was such a great individual, because he reflected the spirit of Bharatiyata, the spirit of Bharat, which is tolerant to everybody. It is plural in its inherent nature. Now, finally, what we need to do as a country is not allow Western concepts of of their kind of church versus state separation kind of, jeopardize our narrative on pluralism. It's okay to be a proud Hindu. It's okay to be a proud Muslim. It's okay to be a proud Christian. It's okay to even be a proud atheist, as long as you know that what makes you most proud is not being the Hindu or the Muslim or the Christian, but being an Indian, being a Bharatiya. As long as you are always conscious of the fact that what binds all of us together is our Bharatiyata, I think that's the key. And therefore, if you see my Twitter bio, I said this long time ago. I didn't know I was going to come for this function, but I said long time ago that my religion is Islam, my culture is Hindu, and my ideology is Indian. And when I say I'm a cultural Hindu, all of us are cultural Hindus. And by that term, I don't mean that that culture has been derived from a particular religion. Today, Hindu culture is an amalgamation of all cultures. It's a coalition of cultures that has taken influences from everybody, including the British, including the Mughals, including our invaders. And it has come up with something more beautiful. And that's what is the part of the Indian culture. It isn't one religion. It isn't one theology. In fact, think about it. India, unlike religions like Christianity and Islam, I'm an adherent of Islam and I love my religion. But unlike that, in India, there was never just one place of worship like the Mecca or like the Vatican. There was never just one scripture like the Bible or the Quran. There was never just one God, like you believe Jesus Christ is the Son of God, or you believe in Allah, and if you don't, then you're not a Muslim, or then you're not a Christian. In fact, here we had a situation where we have 33 crore gods. We don't have one particular scripture. We may have no scriptures. We may have no rules. We, in fact, have even counter-narratives to the original thought, which come up in the form of Buddhism and Jainism. That's the beauty. The beauty of Indian Muslims or Indian Christians also is that they've allowed their cultural origin of being an Indian overtake everything else. And therefore, we find that a lot of the problems that are seen in Western societies, a lot of problems that are seen in European societies, in US, they don't exist here. Here, everybody exists as an Indian. I'm not painting a rosy picture. I'm not painting a pretty picture. I understand there are conflicts. I understand there have been riots. I understand there have been a lot of communal dialogues and narratives. But we get through all of it. It doesn't destroy our country. Yes, there was 1947. There was a partition. But from then to now, for the last 71 years, we've done pretty well for ourselves. That's because of Bharatiyata, the spirit of looking at everyone through their religion, beyond their caste, beyond their identities, and identifying them only as a Bharatiya, only as an Indian. And I think if we continue to look at each other only as Bharatiya, only as the cultural and spiritual and philosophical ethos that we all have come from, I think that will continue to hold us instead for the next 200 years. And I hope and I pray that inshallah, we'll always remain Bharatiya first. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Namaste. We hope you enjoyed this Chitti Media content. Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.